Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Choose Your Weapon. I'm Oz, and as always, I'm joined by Drew. Today we're going to be speaking about the Marvel movies that are coming out. We've got the new Avengers Age of Ultron coming out in May, and then in July we've got the new Ant-Man coming out. So we're looking forward to those.
It's so close. I can almost taste the Hulk.
He'll be smashing some stuff, I'm sure.
That's the secret.
I was reading, the reason we brought this up is I was reading an article recently about the Ant-Man movie and all the new stuff that's going on with some of the directorial changes, and they're on like the fourth rewrite of the script. And at first I was kind of leery, but I looked at the cast, and the cast is pretty awesome. We're actually going to have Hank Pym in the movie, played by Michael Douglas, and Evangeline Lilly, for the fans out there of the Hobbit movies and the other stuff she's been in. She's playing Hope Van Dyne, who is the daughter of Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, and Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man. And she has this whole story arc with her father, and then Paul Rudd plays Scott Lang, who is the second Ant-Man, who essentially is a...
Wait, there's two Ant-Mans?
Technically there's three, but...
You gotta be kidding me.
There's Eric O'Grady, who's the irredeemable Ant-Man, but that's in the comics, that's not in the movie. So
okay, I don't know much about the Ant-Man comics, but I've seen the Avengers.
If you've seen the Avengers, you've essentially seen a bunch of most of the main characters. In the comics, in the comics history, Hank Pym is one of the founding members of the Avengers. At that point, he's Giant Man.
Oh, so he's should be around by now.
Yeah. So there's Ant-Man, the Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, and then they find Captain America, and that's I think it's either the first or second issue. And then at that point, Hank Pym is Giant Man.
He's not Ant-Man.
Well, no, because his Pym particles allow him to change his size.
Oh.
So at first he can just get really big, and then he can just get really small, and then once later on, Pym just uses them to change shape whatever he wants.
So what do our viewers, our less nerdy viewers, if that's possible, need to know about Ant-Man to get ready for the release of Ant-Man? Because he's a lesser known superhero.
That's true.
Spider-Man, Thor, Iron Man, everyone kind of knows what they do.
Right.
What's Ant-Man's deal?
So Ant-Man, or Hank Pym, builds this suit that allows him to shrink, and there's a helmet with all these sort of radio wave emitters and infrared frequency detectors, and they allow him to communicate with ants and some
Wait,
other
really?
insects.
Like Aquaman, but with ants?
Sort of, because ants are they're a colony insect. There's a communication hierarchy. So supposedly he figures out a way to do that so that they'll do his bidding.
So
and
he's like the queen ant.
Essentially, yes.
Okay. And is that a really powerful ability to have? Are superheroes getting taken down by ants?
Well, the coolest thing about Ant-Man is, regardless of his size, he still has his normal strength.
Okay, but
so even when he's ant size, he's just as strong as he would be at his normal size. So if you're a bad guy walking along and Ant-Man is under your shoe, he can literally throw you because he still has his normal strength.
When he gets bigger, does he still have his normal strength?
His strength never changes.
Man, what is this superpower?
Well, his superpower is he's essentially like the world's ultimate spy because he can sneak in anywhere.
Oh, so he's a sneaky guy.
Yes. He's not like he's not a brawler, Batman, Spider-Man type of guy. That's not him.
I'm not going to lie. What I'm thinking right now is that Ant-Man is just a really easy way to do cool effects in movies without spending any money.
Well, that's what I thought.
Having guys fly over nothing.
I read an article with the current director. What's his name? Perry? I don't remember his first name.
Doesn't matter.
But so they basically spoke about what they're going to do and things moving forward, and he promises that it's not going to be a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of movie with lots of giant props in the background and Paul Rudd sort of stumbling around looking confused.
Oh, that's what I was hoping for.
No one wants that. So there's going to be lots of digital effects, and he's actually kind of happy for the fans out there. The movie was supposed to come out a couple of years ago, and Edgar Wright, who everybody knows from Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz and all of those, he was originally going to direct the movie, and then he left the project last year due to a mutual agreement to go separate ways between him and Marvel. And they basically got this guy Perry to direct the movie, and he's directed The Breakup is his big one, and he's done some screenplays.
They're really going after comedy directors for this.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, with Paul Rudd, Paul Rudd is a great comedy foil.
That's true.
And
so this is gonna be a funny Avengers.
I think that they realize that the comedy angle works. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is one of the funniest movies I've seen.
That's true. Guardians of the Galaxy was amazing.
But it's one of the few movies that follows that Ghostbusters sort of build, which is it's a sci-fi action-y movie that also has comedy in it, and Marvel was like, "Oh, that'll work."
That's
I
true.
think they're gonna
Marvel's
do the
actually
same
been
thing.
killing it with that lately.
Yeah, so I'm
like
willing
even
to
with
trust
Iron
them.
Man, they've been working it in like crazy.
So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm willing to trust them and see what happens. I know that Paul Rudd wrote some of the revised screenplay, and they're still using the bones of the screenplay that were written by Edgar Wright. So it's going to have a lot of like humor in it, and there'll be a lot of like sort of clever dialogue and that sort of thing. I think it'll be a cool movie to see. I'm looking forward. I love Paul Rudd. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I guess the main thing that like we're getting ahead of ourselves
Yeah,
here
that's true. That's true.
because Age of Ultron Avengers is coming out in like a few weeks.
Yes, it's May 1st, I believe, is the release.
Yeah, that's really soon.
Yes.
So, what's our primer for Ultron looking like?
Oh God. Okay, so for those of you,
We saw him at the end of the credits of Avengers 1, right?
Ultron. No, they didn't.
Or
No,
who
that
was
was
that?
That was Thanos.
Oh, that's Thanos. He's not involved.
That's a galactic tie. Well, he sort of is. Remember, he's the guy that Loki is essentially working for when he leads the army to Earth.
Yeah.
Thanos is like a celestial powerhouse, and I'm not going to get into that now because it's too big to get into. But the guy that they show you at the sneak peek at the end is also the main villain in Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the guy who Ronan is working for.
Oh, so they're connected.
Yeah, they're Marvel's doing their whole like slow fishnet where they're pulling everything together and they're going to tie everything in at some point.
Like a net.
Exactly. So Age of Ultron should be great. For those of you that are familiar with the series, I believe Paul Bettany is the voice of Jarvis throughout the movies. And he's actually getting a chance to be Ultron. So he's the same voice actor. He's going to play Ultron in the movie. They went in a slightly different direction. The comics canon is that Ultron is a robot that is essentially created by Hank Pym. And in this, to have it be part of the Avengers canon, it's like a rogue creation of Tony Stark. Like he creates the Jarvis AI, and then that sort of modifies itself and becomes self-aware and becomes Ultron.
Ooh.
So I mean that's what they've been alluding to. I can only guess. The movie obviously isn't out yet, but that's sort of where it looks.
They've been really good at keeping stuff under wraps because that movie's coming out soon. I don't know a thing about it.
Which I appreciate. I think that when you overhype a movie and then you see it, a lot of times you're like, oh man, they showed all the best stuff in the trailer.
Yep.
And
Well,
Marvel's
this
been
is
really
not
good
the
about,
case.
Yeah, they've been really good about not doing that.
One interesting little spoily type thing that happened recently was at Gillette Stadium here in Massachusetts. There's a Stark Industries sign on the side of it, covered up by a sheet right now, but you can read Stark Industries through it. So I think for it's like Civil War or something they're filming, and they're filming an exterior shot of a Stark Industries building on Gillette Stadium.
That's pretty cool.
It can't be for Age of Ultron because that movie's coming out so soon.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel's really good about doing all the tie-ins and stuff. So it could be for Agents of Shield. It could be for Doctor Strange, because they name drop Doctor Strange in Winter Soldier.
Yep.
There's that scene on the roof where they're interrogating the guy, and he's like, "Oh, they got to worry about Doctor Strange and Bruce Banner." And I'm like, "Okay, that was they're like name drop. That was very obvious." So it could be for that. For those of you out there who aren't aware of that, Benedict Cumberbatch supposedly is cast to play Doctor Strange.
Oh, baby.
So I think there'll be a lot of female audience goers that'll be super psyched about that.
And male audience goers
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't love Benedict Cumberbatch? Who's your favorite Avenger?
My favorite Avenger?
Yeah.
Tony Stark, obviously.
Okay, all right. It's a good one.
Yeah, Iron Man's really cool. He's like every gearhead or petrol head's like identifiable superhero.
That's true.
Because he's just like a tinkerer. He just messes around in his garage all day.
Yeah, and he has a fantastic car collection.
Yeah, he does.
Mine's probably Cap.
Captain America?
Steve Rogers is just the man.
You're in for that tragic like time loss
story.
story.
He's kind of cool because he's a man out of time. Like he has that like World War II 40s 50s sensibility,
which is hilarious in Avengers.
Yeah,
just like
they do a good job. They do a good job with that. I even like the scene in Winter Soldier where they go into the underground bunker and Black Widow puts in the code and she's like, "Would you like to play a game?" And then she's like, "That's from that movie." And he's like, "No, I got that reference. I saw that movie." So
he's gradually getting up to the times,
and he's got his list of things he's got to check out, like Korean food and listen to different records and stuff. So
there were a lot of great Captain Americas at Anime Boston. Actually, they had like this group was doing like they had the young pre-experiment Captain America,
nice,
and the older, stronger one. It was pretty sweet.
I had a weird sort of Avengers tie-in moment the other day. I was randomly watching movies on TV, and I was watching Hot Tub Time Machine, and the leader of like the jock dudes, the ski patrol, the blonde guy, that's the same actor who plays Winter Soldier.
Oh,
And there's a scene where he's looking at the Red Dawn poster and he's like, American soil's never been invaded until now. And I was like, dude, you're the Winter Soldier. It was pretty awesome. So
That's so funny.
it was weird because I'm like, that's Red Dawn. It's a movie about, the Russians invading the US in the 80s. And then I'm like, you will soon play a hero from the 40s that is a Russian agent now. So it was weird.
Huh. Wow. It's funny how people don't realize what they're going to be playing after or before they do it.
Yeah, it was neat. I think
I love Winter Soldier though. I thought it was a great movie.
that's
And
one of my-
it
that's
seems
one
like
of my
they're
favorites.
tying more and more superheroes into every like individual superhero movie. Like when they started, it was like Iron Man's movie is just about Iron Man.
Yep.
No one else is showing up. Since Avengers though, everyone's kind of like faded into each other. It's like a watercolor painting that went crazy.
And Marvel's been like with all the Marvel movies coming out, there's a lot of DC stuff that's coming in the future.
Yeah, like the new Spider. There's reboots happening too.
Well, yeah,
right?
those are Sony, but Sony recently signed a deal with Marvel, so there's gonna be a lot of crossover and tie-in. Like
Okay.
eventually, Spider-Man will be. There's a rumor that Spider-Man might be in the Avengers 3 movie,
That'd be pretty
and it's
rad.
because Sony and Marvel have kind of been like, hey, we both like making money. Let's figure out a way to market this stuff together because that's what the fans want.
Absolutely.
Which I think is nice that they're doing it because that's what the ultimately, yeah, they want to make money, but they're doing it because they know that the fans want that, which is why it's going to make them money. But Marvel's been really smart. Like they didn't rush it. They did Iron Man and they were like, let's see how this works.
Yeah, they took their time.
and then they layered it with like Iron Man 2 and Thor and Captain America and the Shield.
And they can
Agents of
feel
S.H.I.E.L.D.
it out
show.
too. Like
yeah.
depending on who responds to what in these movies, they can kind of tailor the movies they're coming out with later. It's kind of like Valve releasing a game and then doing the updates based on what the community likes. You
Right.
know? It's very smart.
They've been smart too about like getting like there's a lot of like high caliber talent that are just like,
Yeah.
oh, you're doing the movie, sure, I'll do it. Like Glenn Close.
Well, who doesn't want to be their childhood superhero, right?
Well, like Glenn Close, who's a huge actress, is in Guardians of the Galaxy as like that like director of the Nova Corps or whatever. She's barely in the movie, but I'm like, that's Glenn Close. Like you got Glenn Close to do this movie, and in the new Ant-Man movie they've got Michael Douglas is playing Hank Pym.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're like, well, we found these couple of guys that you've seen from that one show that one time as an extra. Like they're really bringing in talent that they know, not just to name drop either. They're getting people that can pull off the part and do
and
the
it's
job.
so worth it. I mean, I saw Avengers at UMass Amherst when I was up there. Like it was like one of the earlier nights when it was shown, like for the first few times, and it was late at night, and the audience just freaking like went mad, especially like when Hulk grabs Loki and slams around and says "puny god."
It's
Everyone
such a
just
great scene.
lost it. Like these movies are fantastic. I mean, Josh Whedon writes amazing stuff.
He does.
He's hilarious.
It's super quippy, which I've had some friends be kind of mad because like the Avengers aren't really quippy. Like there are certain heroes like Deadpool's, always running his mouth, and Spider-Man, and there's certain people. So a couple of the purists were like, well, they're not really supposed to be that like like let's drop some funny lines all the time, but it works. It lightens the movie because otherwise it's just super like grim and
superhero
then fight scene.
super
You're like, okay.
spandex.
Yeah, so I do like it. I think Joss Whedon's done a really good job. But not just him. I mean, I have to credit a lot of the other actors, like Jon Favreau. I mean, he killed it with the Iron Man movies.
Yep.
I think that he kind of got Marvel kind of back on top, and that's
Definitely,
what
the Iron Man movies
Yeah.
were pretty much the sole reason I started watching Marvel movies again.
the first one's so good. I love the first one. The second one's great too.
Definitely.
Anything else?
I can't think of anything. I mean, you're the Marvel expert here. Are we missing anything?
I can talk about Marvel in general all day, and Marvel movies for.
Are we
at least
missing
a couple
anything
hours.
important?
I don't think so. Not as of right now. There's a couple of teases. I know that. Oh, who else is going to be? There's like a weird sort of sneak peek of some other actors that are going to be in Ant-Man. Anybody who likes The Wire? Was it Jarrett Stahl? I think that's his name. Jarrett Stahl.
We don't have a
is
magazine
playing-
cheat sheet here.
Jarrett Stahl is playing sort of the villain in that. If anybody's watched The Strain, he's the doctor. He's the main character. So they've definitely done a good job to sort of like bring in like really like interesting actors that have done some cool stuff. So
Awesome, and I cannot wait. So, if you are thinking about joining us next week, I don't know if you're like a big Cat Dog fan or anything. We'll be talking about nothing but Cat Dog next week.
no, we won't.
3-hour show,
Nope.
special show.
None of that.
Too Many Cooks will be on. We're gonna do the whole Too Many Cooks skit right here in the Microsoft Center. So be sure to tune in. Until next time, Oz, what's your weapon?
Cap shield.
Okay, I'm gonna duct tape an ice skate to my hand. That's my weapon for this week. And you're watching Choose Your Weapon. We'll catch you next week.